I chose the church over my mother. And what people don't understand, and that's a child. I was 11, 12 years old by that time. That's a child, 10, 11, child. But I chose the church over my mother because I got into this because I believed God could save my mother, you know. I was one of the very few people who did not come to Christianity. I don't want to say few people, but I didn't come to Christianity because I read something in the Bible that made me, as a child, say, "Oh, this God is very loving and very good." You don't get that from Genesis, to be sure. Um, but my mom, who was struggling with drug addiction at the time, she started going to a Pentecostal holiness church. And I went to that church and I remember them praying for my mom and she started crying and she started, like gyrating and stuff. And they were like, "We're
Oh, wow.
casting the devils out of her." And I was like, "Oh yes, somebody's fixing my mom, you know? And so for the first time, something that I had not seen in any of the other churches that I experienced, and something that I didn't see in the Bible per se at that time, not from Genesis and Exodus for sure, was this active God who was actually concerned about people individually. And so I got that introduction there, and I remember, oh, my mom's crying, she's going to be better. And so I got really interested in church at that moment. It became very interesting. And I saw other young kids in church. They were playing instruments and they looked like they loved Jesus. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something I've been missing. And maybe my life has been so traumatic because my mom didn't know Jesus and my dad didn't know Jesus. And so we weren't living the way we were supposed to live as a family. And so I got interested in this God. I didn't get saved immediately, but I did get interested, and I wanted to know more, especially because this God was able to move people. This God was able to make people run around the church. This God was able to he gave the preacher this power where when the preacher would touch people, they would fall out, and then the preacher could tell people things, and those people would be like, "Oh, you're telling me the truth. This is about my life." And I was like, okay, this must be evidence of something. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But as this little 10, 11-year-old kid, I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, I'm interested. And I started thinking about it for a while. And then I decided, because, they do the little altar calls. And every time they do the altar call, as a kid at this time, you'd always look around and see who else was going to answer the call first. And then I was like, maybe this is my day. Maybe this is my time. And so I went down and the preacher prayed for me. And I'll admit, coming in, I didn't know what to expect because church did not look like the Bible that I read. And so and the only thing that did at that time made me sure that I was missing something about the Bible. There's something here that I'm not seeing. So but I went down and they led me through the Lord's Prayer. And at that time, if you would have asked me, I would have described, oh, feeling a presence, feeling something come over me. And then everybody's praying over me, and then they're super happy that I'm excited. And then other kids came down after I came down. And then that reinforced within me that I must really did the right thing. And God wanted me to do it at this exact time to lead those other people down here too.
Welcome back. Thank you for being here. So, today I'm looking at the testimony of someone who used to be a Christian and has decided, oh, there's no proof for this thing. I don't even know why I believe this. And I'm going to just go through his story because there's so many points that I think that many people can relate to. And as I listen to this story, I start to feel, even to see how the enemy works and how we are so unaware of how he works. We are so unaware of this big battle that is going on for souls. this way and that. You can either go this way or that. The big battle that is going on for souls. And I think that's the main reason that so many of us decide, nah, Jesus, adios. I don't think so. I don't think you're real. The evidence doesn't speak in your favor, Jesus. It is so heartbreaking. And I keep praying and asking God, Lord, please don't let me ever return to that point where I turn away from you ever again. I thank you that I never perished while my heart was hardened against you. But I don't ever want to go back there. Your heart breaks when you see people get to that point and to that bridge. And they decide, yeah, this is the bridge I'm going to cross. Because some get to cross back, but many end up staying on that side. And so we have a 10-year-old, all happy, all excited to see the power of God, thinking about all the things that God could use him to do. How many of us started off like this? I was baptized at the age of 12. And I still remember what I was wearing. I was dressed in white all the way from head. So did I remain faithful from the age of 12 till now? There were gaps along the way. That's why I say, Lord, I don't want to ever go back. But here we see a 10-year-old who was so happy. It's like he found treasure. Wow, I found this God. And I think this is the real deal. I think he's going to be able to use me. Look, even other children are coming forward as I make this choice. I think I'm onto a good start here. This is a good
I
thing.
think for a lot of people, that's one of the reasons that they stay so long
Oh
is
yeah.
because they don't see that there's more to it than simply, I need a good father, like you talked about. I need a good father, and God, you're it.
Right.
I'm in need, and you're my helper. In trouble, and I need a rescuer. Everything is just love and sunshine and puppy dogs, and it's like at a certain point you have to admit what's in this text, and it's
Yes.
not as simple as God is just love.
This right here is a
And
very important point because so many people, they're never told that God isn't just, oh, God is love. Yes, God is love. God is a loving judge. He is also the judge of heaven and earth. So many people come to God and they say, well, a loving God will never do that. A loving God will never create a place called hell. A loving God, and everybody has this loving God on their shoulders that will never do this and will never do that because it's their loving God. This is a loving God. He would never do that. He would never send people to hell for eternity to burn forever. A loving God wouldn't do that. Oh, a loving God wouldn't do this. A loving God wouldn't do that. Because this is my loving God, your loving idol. God is not just love, He's a just judge. And judgment will follow. We are living in this world thinking that we can just live as we please, do as we please. Even your thoughts are noted. His word says, before a word is on my tongue, you know it. This loving God is a loving judge. He will judge this earth. He will judge this earth. No, make no mistake about that. He will judge this earth.
I chose the church over my mother because I got into this because I believed God could save my mother. You know,
mm,
that's what I believe. God can save anybody. He can save my mother. That's why it took me a little longer to get to the sin part because I didn't necessarily come to Jesus for me. I love the father aspect, but it was this father who loves me enough to fix my mom.
And so here he admits that he came to Jesus so that Jesus can fix his mother. And that made me wonder, how was Jesus sold to you? For some, he was sold as this, come unto Jesus and he'll take all your problems away and you know everything will be all right. Come unto Jesus. All ye who are heavily burdened, and he will take your yoke, and everything will be all right. You won't have any more suffering in your life. Come unto Jesus. He's going to make you rich. Yes, he wants you to be wealthy. He wants everything to be well with you. You won't have any sickness. You will be wealthy all the days of your life. How was Jesus sold to you? How was Jesus sold to you? Because that determines so much. That determines so much of how we decide to walk with him. Imagine someone told you, this Jesus is going to bless you with so much money. Man, you're going to have money flying, coming out your ears, and you're going to be able to bless all these people and give all these people money. And then you realize that, but that's not happening. I haven't seen that. And you're going to be so disgruntled, like someone sold you something that wasn't the truth. You know how we behave when someone sold us something and we realize, but wait a minute, this isn't what I purchased. This is not what I asked for. This is not what you told me I was going to get. When I opened the package, it's not what you told me. So people get disgruntled and they decide, goodbye, Jesus. I don't think you're the real deal, because this is what I was told would happen, and it's not happening, Jesus. How was Jesus sold to you?
I got called rebellious and stuff, but I was really just trying to learn. I was trying to understand. The church I went to, the women couldn't wear pants, and they had scripture for it. Men ought not to wear what women wear. And I was like, but these clothes come from the women's section. So I don't understand how that's even relevant. And then I said, again, I grew up reading about Greek mythology and things of like that. So I'm like, based off of my understanding, people during this time frame wouldn't have wore pants anyway. They would have all been wearing dresses, togas, but dresses nonetheless. So
Yeah.
I couldn't understand these little nitpicky things about God. And that created a lot of problems for me in that Pentecostal holiness church. They eventually kicked me out.
Because you're just asking so many questions.
Too many questions. One lady actually said, because they used to play the little Bible games at church, and I played 1 week and I lost every question. I didn't know anything. And then the next week I won every question. And she said, you're possessed by the spirit of Beelzebub, because there's no way you could have learned all of that in that short a time.
What?
So this is real, because there's so many things that need to be addressed in so many churches. But then if you only knew that many of these churches, they really have nothing to do with the Most High God. I'm not saying all, but many of them. A lot of ignorance in churches. That is true. But there's also ignorance when people choose to say there is no God. Because while your enemy is plotting for your soul, right? While he's there targeting your soul, you are busy saying that there is no God. So he said all these little picky things about God. You see, you have to be so careful not to entangle what people say and people do and just attach that to God and say, well, this is how God is. It might not have anything to do with God. Since when does God condemn learning and getting understanding and getting knowledge and wisdom? The whole book of Proverbs tells us about wisdom, calling out. When does God condemn that? So no, I would never condone someone calling a child Beelzebub, telling him he has the spirit of Beelzebub because he knew all of this stuff. Remaining in darkness and ignorance is not of God. Remaining in ignorance and darkness and just believing by blind faith. Oh, I believe because I have a feeling, I just got this feeling that came over me. Is that what God has been reduced to? How we feel? Has nothing to do with the Most High God. He encourages us. Why would God create science that is something that enables us? This is a tool that enables us to learn so much about our environment, about our bodies, about so many things around us. Would he create the possibility for us to test, to check, to verify, to double check and then tell us to remain ignorant? It's not the God of the Bible. No. He does not tell people remain ignorant and blind and just have blind faith. Follow me and don't ask any questions. No. He has created so many avenues for us to know him. But one thing he will never do is make that choice for us.
I think that's the complexity that people often don't address as a Christian. It's not just not living my life in a way that doesn't align with the Bible. It's also that doesn't align with whoever's branch of theology is judging me at that time. Because what you end up with is, and this, from what I haven't found two Christians who believe the exact same thing. I've never been in a room where you can get two believers together and you walk them through and you say, oh, we believe these exact same things. There's that much of a complexity to it because there is no amount of certainty or surety in any of it. So we all just kind of get to pick and choose.
Not only are people divergently convinced of different things, but they're ready to start swinging if you disagree with them, or at least start calling you a really ignorant person, or the snark of like, I guess you haven't done enough study yet, and
Yep.
or even, like you said, Beelzebub. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you that you can't. If you're in the Word of God, you would see it my way.
So this is also another valid point, because there are many denominations and there are many things that don't align. People don't see eye to eye because everyone has his own interpretation. His own interpretation, like he mentioned, he said he was told that women shouldn't wear men's clothing. But yet this was taken from the women's section. And back then, men did wear robes that looked like dresses. So even things like that, where a lot of ignorance, there's a lot of, but if there's one thing that makes the biggest difference, it's that Jesus came to this earth, born of a virgin, died, rose on the third day, is now seated at the right hand of God, and that his blood is the atonement for sins. Anyone that says otherwise, it doesn't even matter what else they believe that's different from us, or that's different from being a Christian per se. If you don't believe the very basic fundamental principle of why Jesus came, who Jesus is, then all the other things, it really doesn't matter, does it? Bear this in mind. You have an enemy who has been studying humanity for many, many, many years. He's had many, many more years before you. It's like a company that's been around for 80 years and another startup that's just arrived. The one that's been around for 80 years, they already have the know-how. There are many things that they would have an advantage over the one that's just starting up. You're just starting up. You don't know what eternity is. You have an enemy who has been around for a very, very long time. And he knows how to get even the most intellectual human being, the father of lies. Look how many people he has believing that they evolved, and they're calling it science. Yeah, you evolved. Yeah, you evolved. Imagine believing that you evolved. Every single part of you, as intricate as the body is, one thing that's off and the body will malfunction. So imagine believing that you evolved and you're calling it science, the father of lies. If you can get the most brilliant scholars and professors to believe that, but forget about them. About the ones who were in heaven, 1/3 of the heavenly hosts wiped out. What must he have told them? Lord, I wonder if you would ever let us know. What must he have said to these angels to make them believe that he was worth it? If they were in the presence of the Most High and they were deceived, what is man? You've just arrived on the scene with your startup. You're looking at this one that's been around for so many years. You just arrived on the scene and you want to believe that you are a match for the devil? who's counting the souls daily. How many souls? The devil does not need to go in the clubs. He doesn't need to go out in the world where people are, where they already hate God. They don't want to have anything to do with God. You don't have to go there. He needs to plant some churches, and he needs to make sure he is in those churches, either in the choir, in the ministry, as the ushers. Yes. There are people who humiliate you and tell you you have the spirit of Beelzebub because you learned something that you're not supposed to know, and you're supposed to be ignorant. That's where the devil goes, because he needs that soul. Anything, by any means, get that soul to hell. Get that soul to say there is no God and there is no proof. While people in the spiritual realm, because those who know, are operating at a level that you will never understand because you choose to say that there is no God. Mm-mm. I pray, I hope, no, you could never wish hell on anyone. You could never wish hell on anyone. No human being. You could never wish hell on any human being. But man, I really do hope that there are many people who are turning away from atheism, but man, to believe the father of lies, that is damnation to your soul. Open your eyes, humble yourself. We don't have much time left. The curtains on this world are literally closing. This world is about to enter into a time where we would see many things from the Bible being fulfilled. And the mark of the beast is one of these things. Don't let the devil deceive you and tell you there is no God. While the demons tremble, God is real. And Jesus Christ is coming back. The same atheist is writing a book talking about what is holding Jesus up. Do you know that he's going to come back, but the time frame in which he's not yet returned, you still have this time for your soul to be saved. So don't rush his return while you are heading to the pits of hell, because you would not enjoy that. I plead with souls, man. I am pleading with souls. Jesus, have mercy on them. Open their eyes, Lord, and grab them from the pits of hell. Pray for people who have turned away, and do your best to do your due diligence for your soul. The devil doesn't love you. Jesus does. I cannot plead with you enough. I really cannot plead with you enough. Listen to Erica's testimony about hell. Listen to it. And ask yourself, is this a place where I want to spend eternity? Thank you for being here. And until next time.